Good evening, everyone. Good evening. Come on, y'all can do better than that. Good evening, everyone.
Good evening, gentlemen.
Good evening.
Thank you, Ms. Williams.
Yes, sir.
I'd like to call the Sumter County Council regular meeting for Tuesday, May 14th to order. Ms. Lee, would you please give us an indication? Let us all stand, please, and remain standing for the pledge of allegiance.
Let us pray. Our dear kind Heavenly Father, we do thank you for allowing us to come together again to do the business that you have appointed us to do. We acknowledge you as the one in whom we live, move, and have our being. We acknowledge that you are, the earth is yours and the fullness thereof. And therefore, as we go through this budget process, we are trusting you that you will grant us the resources that we need to approve a balanced budget that is considering everything and everyone, and we will be able to have peace and love in the process. We thank you for that, and we ask that you help us to always be good stewards of what you've blessed us with. Help us to never be wasteful. Help us to never be to show preferential treatment, but to consider everything in that budget process. We ask your blessings upon everyone who have seen fit to come to join our meeting today. Help us to be examples and so that they can appreciate local government in action. We thank you for all of the members of County Council. We know that we are the appointed ones for a time such as this. And we thank you for our county administrator and his staff for the hard work that they are doing, trying to present to us a budget that we can all agree upon. We thank you, and we count it all done that you will be able to do what is pleasing in your sight. These are our blessings we thank and ask in your name. Amen and amen.
Ms. Ari.
Sorry.
The pledge.
Never said. It's not. Okay, I'm sorry. Mr. Lance.
Lance Newton.
Oh, I was.
Lance Newton.
Forgive me, I'm not sure why I didn't show up. Just a second.
Good man.
Just a second. Something doesn't want to go off.
Bypass that.
No, we want to see you.
No.
There you go.
Well, tonight we'll be led in the Pledge of Allegiance by retired U.S. Marine Corps veteran Mr. Lance Newman, who served our country from 1983 to 2006. He was deployed 4 times to Iraq and Afghanistan and received several meritorious shooting awards during his military career. He dedicates his life to serving veterans in the Sumter community and across the state. Thank you for your service, Lance.
Thank you.
And he is from County Council District Number 7.
Here, here.
Dr. Val, thank you for the invitation. Pledge allegiance is something I don't take lightly. You all join me, please. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Thank you for your service. Mr. Chairman. I just, oh, I guess I should wait.
Thanks.
Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
I have a motion to approve our minutes from our regular meeting for April 23rd and County Council's budget workshop from May the 2nd. So moved, Mr. Chairman. Have a motion and a second to approve our meeting minutes. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye. Mr. Chairman, I just wanted you to know that the emerging leaders in here for council tonight, we just wanted you to hear.
Right. Ms. Erica Williams, I see you have some of your emerging leaders here.
Yes.
Would you please come to the podium and speak on that for a little bit?
Good evening. Good evening.
Good evening.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, council members. I am here once again to introduce and talk just a little bit about our Emerging Leaders Program. I am Erica Williams in Sumter Economic Development. Our Emerging Leaders Program, we are in year 6. So this is members from class 6. The Emerging Leaders Program invites high school juniors from both Sumter and Lee counties and the public and private schools to convene for monthly sessions where they are embarking upon leadership discussions in finance, economic development, industry, local government, law enforcement, and other key sessions. At the completion of the program during their senior year, they have an opportunity to serve on boards and committees throughout the community in order to lend their voice as youth as we continue to develop and build out our community and our region. This is in partnership with the University of South Carolina, so they also get 3 credit hours that are transferable to any school or university. We have 19 students in the program this year, and they are actually, today was their final session, and they will actually graduate tomorrow. So once again, that is class 6, and I have this evening 5 of the 19 students represented on the end. Deshaun Poe from Sumter High School. Thank you, sir. Roger Scott with Thomas Sumter Academy. Kamani Pearson with Sumter High School. Cameron Lester, Sumter High School. And Audrey Raxter with Crestwood High School. And at the appropriate time, we would love to take a photo of the council as always. Thank you.
Thank you. Land use matters and rezoning request RZ 2406.
Mr. Chairman, I'm going to recuse myself from presiding.
Good evening, Helen Reedman for planning staff. Our first request this evening is RZ 2406 at 3520 and 3580 Thomas Sumter Highway. The applicant's Ms. Lillian Morris, the property owner. This is actually a request to rezone a portion of the property, approximately 1.98 acres of the overall 8.4 acres from agricultural conservation to general commercial. This is the entirety of the 8.4 acres. It is currently undeveloped with a significant amount of frontage along Thomas Sumter Highway. But the crux of the request today is, as you see in the graphic before you, and I'm not sure if the audience can see this, but a vast majority of the property is on general commercial, but there is a small strip to the rear that is zoned agricultural conservation. This request is to rezone the balance of the property to general commercial to bring all of it into one zoning district. When we look at rezoning requests, we look at what the comprehensive land use plan designates the property as. In this particular instance, it's influenced by the military protection planning area, as well as the conservation planning area. The military protection planning area is supportive of rezonings that remove certain types of residential entitlement, such as manufactured homes. In this instance, the general commercial zoning designation does achieve that objective. It also helps to lessen the density of residential units, as the primary focus of the general commercial district is our broadest possible range of commercial uses, which makes it less likely to be used for residential purposes. As far as the conservation planning area, the reason that this portion of the property is influenced by it is based off of previous floodplain maps that were in effect when we did the comprehensive plan in 2019. Since we adopted new maps in 2022, that floodplain area has actually moved off of that property And at the end of this year, when we do our update and adopt the update to the comprehensive plan, we'll actually be shifting that property out of the conservation preservation planning area, and it will entirely be within the military protection planning area. With all that being said, the request to go from AC to general commercial is in general alignment with the comp plan. Planning Commission did recommend approval of this request. The GC district already encompasses a large portion of the tract. So bringing the whole property into general commercial is within line with best management, and the request does align with best practices, being considered reasonable. Happy to answer any questions.
Move approval first reading.
Second.
Second, that we have first reading of RZ 2406. Any discussion?
Mr. Chairman, what is the proposed use of this land?
There is no proposed use at this time. My understanding is that it's currently being marketed.
I would think we would want some more background.
Most of it's been commercial now. We're talking about disturbing land. All right, it's already back. Just combining it, making it whole.
Yeah, but there are 57 homes.
It's already general commercial.
So part of it.
Most of it, 90% of it's general commercial now, right? Or 98%.
Of the 8.4 acres, only about 2 acres of it is not general commercial, and it's at the rear of the property.
And we don't want to know what those 2 acres are going to be used for.
It would be
I
part
mean,
of
there has to be a reason.
general, I guess you need to have
General
a
commercial.
deal for general commercial.
But that's not telling us anything.
Well, I think if someone did buy it and they were going to put general commercial, they would have to go through. It's in the military protection, and is it not in the flight line?
Yes, sir. It is not.
But what's the process at that point if they wanted to put something in?
In accordance with the exhibit that was attached to the staff report, any use that is permitted in the general commercial district, so long as they meet the development standards through the site plan review process, could potentially go on the property. Noxious uses such as drinking establishments, bars, nightclubs, those sorts of things would have to go through a public hearing process as a special exception.
I thought that maybe it's just in flight line, but or the APZ or whatever.
The APZs.
I know that there's even certain commercial businesses that a church or something like
This
that.
property
Anything with large population.
This property is not influenced by the APZ, it is outside of that, so those concentrations of people per hour do not apply to development on this tract.
It's just curious to me with those amount of folks living in that area, 57 homes is what I count. And part of it is GC, and now the other 2 is being requested. That just seems a little bit unusual to me, and to not have background on what the attempt is seems even a little bit more unusual. And I'm wondering whether or not those homeowners are aware of that. And I guess my second question would be, when would the public hearing be?
Second reading.
The public hearing actually has already gone in the paper, it was in Saturday's paper, and the notices were mailed out, and they went out this weekend as well. It will be at the May 28th meeting, will be the public hearing, and the property has already been posted as well.
And Mr. Chairman, do we have an ordinance on public hearings, or have we fallen back to the state ordinance? Do we have a specific ordinance on public hearings for the county? I mean, I know council told me the ordinance book was downstairs in its own file or something, and I don't know, but do we have a ordinance on public hearings?
We follow the state law on public hearings. Public hearings are required on rezoning.
So the answer is no. Sumter County does not. So we follow state law.
We do follow state law. That's what he just said.
No, but a jurisdiction can have its own policy, and I'm asking whether we're following state law or whether we have our own. And I'm being told that we're following state law. Correct?
That's what the attorney's saying.
Okay.
We do address the public hearing requirements in the administration section of the zoning and development standards ordinance. And it does require that a public hearing be posted and noticed 15 days before the public hearing is held. So it is in the zoning and development standards ordinance in Article 1 that lays out the timelines for how public hearings are posted and where they take place as a result of planning commission.
Good enough.
And just to let you know, that neighborhood I used to live in, it's called Kill Sam, and I know the folks. I haven't heard from anyone from that neighborhood complaining yet. Now, they could after the public hearing. I'm not saying they won't. But,
in my experience with events that are zoning actions that have taken place out in that neighborhood or in proximity, I wouldn't be surprised if there are neighborhood members at the public hearing.
Yeah.
But from a,
that'd be good to get to the public hearing.
Well, that's where I'm going with this.
Any further discussion? We have a motion and a second to pass first reading. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
Abstain.
Ms. Roman, RZ 2407.
RZ 2407 is at 1033 Boulevard Road, 408 and 410 East Red Bay Road in the county. Applicants, Mr. Jeffrey Davis, he is here this evening. He is the property owner. This is a request to rezone 2 parcels of land that total 0.88 acres from agricultural conservation to general commercial. It is the tract that you see in red. It's actually comprised of 2 separate parcels, which is kind of a little easier to see in this graphic. There currently is a single family home on the property, and the back portion of the property is currently undeveloped. Just by way of background, the request is to rezone these 2 parcels from AC to GC in order to potentially develop a used car dealership on the property. It is adjacent to vacant commercial land to the south and vacant residential land to the north and east, as well as an institutional land use. And on the opposite side of Red Bay Road, just across the street, there's actually an existing convenience store. It is adjacent to a small node of neighborhood commercial that's already present on the property. If the rezoning is approved, the applicant does contemplate doing a used car dealership there. We should note that you can actually do a used automobile dealership in both limited commercial and neighborhood commercial as well as part of the conditional use process. So general commercial is not the only district necessary to achieve the objective. When we look at this rezone request, we look at the comprehensive land use plan. It is in the suburban development planning area, and it's also influenced by a commercial mixed-use node, which is part of our priority investment planning area. These are located along major corridors and at intersections. We expect a mix of uses to happen in these nodes, a variety of residential and commercial and neighborhood supporting activities. So rezoning the property to a commercial district is in general alignment with the comp plan's designation. After some pretty extensive conversation at Planning Commission, the Planning Commission actually recommends to Council that they rezone this property to neighborhood commercial and not to general commercial. The proposed use, as I said, is possible to do both in limited commercial and neighborhood commercial as a conditional use. At this time, given the existing pattern of development and the residential density around it, neighborhood commercial would allow the applicant to achieve their objective while not introducing a more intense use than is already present within the area. I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Was the applicant receptive to that suggestion?
When I spoke with Mr. Davis, he is also here. I don't believe he had any major objections. He's the gentleman in the pink plaid shirt. So Planning Commission, he did indicate that he didn't have objections to going in neighborhood commercial as long as his objective could be achieved.
Okay, if I make, I'm okay with neighborhood commercial, so we have to amend it right here. Motion amend to approve it with neighborhood commercial.
You can make a motion to approve neighborhood commercial.
I'll make that motion to approve neighborhood commercial. I think I kind of agree with Planning Commission on this one.
Councilman, would you yield so I can ask?
Oh, absolutely, yes, sir.
So it's less than an acre, 0.88. Mm-hmm. Is that enough room for him to do that? I mean, can he?
Yeah, actually, that would be sufficient space to do a commercial activity on the property and observe necessary buffers.
I'll second the motion.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Okay, ordinance amendment 2403.
2403 is a variance to Article 5B3 special design criteria in the county. The applicant says Sumter County is a combination of requests coming forward through conversations with the county attorney as well as planning staff and dealing with some issues that we've had come up with Board of Zoning Appeals. This in particular would actually amend Article 1H4B of the Zoning and Development Standards Ordinance to add a provision in the regulations about when a variance can be granted. And then also to add additional language to 1H4C to clarify that with special exceptions, the Board of Zoning Appeals may modify an approval to add additional conditions, but not to lessen the conditions that are already established for conditional or for special exception use. So Article 5 addresses the performance criteria for buildings and uses and projects and lists out special exception criteria, in particular Section 5B3. These uses are identified and also require special exception approval from the Board of Zoning Appeals through a public hearing process. As you know, this is an appointed board, but they have the authority to approve those uses as they are a quasi-judicial board. The BOA reviews the requests for variances and special exceptions based on the criteria outlined in 1.4HC2 and against any special design criteria in Article 5B3. In the past, we have been asked if there can be variances granted to Article 5B3 criteria that County Council has specifically laid out. This ordinance amendment seeks to firmly answer that question with clear language about the BOA's authority to grant variances to those special use standards. Everything that you see on the screen in gray is how the ordinance is currently written. So right now, this City County Board of Zoning Appeals may grant variances, may not grant a variance to defective, which would allow the establishment of use not otherwise permitted in the zoning district, would extend the physically and non-conforming use of the land, or change the zoning district boundaries shown on the official county map. The language that you see in green would be the proposed added language, which would say that they cannot also provide relief from any special design criteria outlined in 5B3 for certain hazardous or potentially deceptive land development activities. And then the modification to language 1H4B3, everything that you see added in green or struck through would be the new language. So in particular, to granting a special exception, the Board of Zoning Appeals may modify the application by imposing such additional stipulations, conditions, or safeguards that, as in its judgment, will enhance the citing of the special exception. And at the conclusion of a review, the Sumter City County Zoning Board of Appeals shall approve the application as submitted or as specifically modified or disapprove the application. If approved, the City County Zoning Board of Appeals shall instruct the zoning administrator to issue such permits contingent on any specific modifications imposed. So the language that you see in green and the strike-throughs will be the change in this section. Planning Commission did recommend approval of this request. The proposed amendment does remove the ability of the Board of Appeals to grant variances to the design criteria in 5B3 for certain hazardous or potentially disruptive land uses. And it also clarifies that the BOA cannot modify a use approval to be less restrictive than the established criteria in 5B3. We believe these are firm criteria that are set by County Council for the allowed uses as a special use, and that variances to those requirements undermine the use related to requirements that are put in place by Council. I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Any questions on this room?
Is this city and county? Or
Right.
is it just something, because I'm a little lost with this.
Right now, this would amend how we deal with it in the county. I would like to do a similar thing in the city, but
So the city had already done
the
it.
city has not already done this, but
So
we more often than not get requests for variances on special exceptions in the county.
So we're not gonna give them the ability to have common sense and something for a variance or an unforeseen circumstance or a setback. You know, if you've got a creek bed and the property line is middle creek bed, and they want to go 5 feet from the creek, and the setback says 20 feet, I mean, it's nothing but just, you're talking.
But let me clarify.
Okay.
We're not prohibiting variances from development standards that are general variances. So it's a 20-foot setback for you to build this by right permitted use. and there's a special condition on the property that makes that not practical or feasible, you can still get a variance from that. This would be
Just 5 feet.
for special exception uses. For instance, we require 300-foot separation from structure to truck structure from a church, school, park, public playground, or residential use for a bar.
Okay.
This would prohibit somebody that's got a house 150 feet away from them from asking for a variance from that 300-foot separation, because that is a finite review criteria.
Why would you prevent that? Why would you want to prevent that? The neighborhood was fine with it. Well, they make the decision, not us tell them, no, this is final. Well, if they go buy these houses, I mean, I'm just asking, I mean, it just seems like kind of rigid to, to force it down people's throats and not having any flexibility in the board to address certain circumstances.
There would be a public hearing, right?
There's a public hearing on every special exception. So the crux of this and the question that's before you is whether county council sees value in holding hard and fast on all of their design review criteria for special exceptions, or whether you would like to allow variances to be granted from those standards as part of a variance/special exception review process in tandem with each other.
I can't imagine any residential owner really wanting to be closer than setbacks that they have. I mean, even if they sell their house, they're gonna be valued at home.
Use a different example. Use wetlands, okay? 200 feet wetlands, they were 100 feet. There's still wetlands there. No one's gonna live there. Why can't you give them 100%? I'm just saying that I think I'm not against this, so they tell you where I'm at on this one, so.
I would be, from a staff perspective, it would probably be good to have a work session to talk you guys through all of this.
I'll move for first reading, but I do want some more information on this. I don't really understand it clearly, so it would help a lot.
But I would.
Why have the ZBA if we're not gonna give them exception variances? That's my problem. Why even have the ZBA,
It's just for special exceptions.
Yeah, but you're gonna have some circumstances come up so that they would actually have a viable reason to have it there. Now you'll say no.
No, not to all, just permitted uses though.
But you're gonna have
Just
a
on the special condition.
You'll have to say, I know. So no one's gonna hear that, they'll come to us and ask for it. I don't know.
Well, we approved it. Like she said, we initially approved all these setbacks and all, so if we need to go back and
Well, this just gives.
change those amendments, but
This is.
I think, yeah, kind of on your point, it is on a case-by-case basis.
Correct.
Every case is different too.
You talking about like 1 year maybe, or 2 years? I mean, at least give the applicant an opportunity, You're not giving applicant an opportunity to ask for it right now.
Would we be better suited to have it come back to us instead of BZA?
I don't know. Jonathan said yes, so I don't know.
Mr. Chairman, we sure do have a lot of special exceptions. And what is the purpose of having an ordinance if when somebody pops up, mostly of influence and connections, we do a special exception? It just seems to me that there is a whole lot of special exceptions.
We don't have the choice of doing special exceptions. It's either written, it falls under special exceptions or falls under conditional or permitted. It falls under special exception right here.
I appreciate that, Councilman, but that still does not negate the fact that there are quite a few.
Yeah, let's do first.
Yeah, can we send it to a committee and have you come
The ladies.
explain it a little clearer too?
I would love the opportunity.
Well, we have a motion, we have a second.
Second.
To have first reading. We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of having first reading, please say aye. Aye. All opposed?
I'm gonna say nay.
Nay.
Passes 4-3.
I will work with Ms. Blanding to make sure that there's a committee meeting for us before the next meeting.
Okay, third reading of ordinance number 24-1000.
Mr. Chairman, no changes since second reading.
Third reading.
It's been moved and properly seconded that we have third reading, but prior to voting on this, we are having a public hearing on the sale of this property located on Old Manning and Divine Street in Sumter. Public hearing is now open. Anyone wishing to speak for or against this sale, please proceed to the podium and state your name for the record. Hearing none, public hearing is over. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. All opposed. Third reading is done. We have a proclamation declaring May 19th through 25th as EMS Week in Sumter County. Ms. Blanding, would you please read the proclamation you have? I'll read it. You put it up. This is the proclamation. Whereas emergency medical services is a vital public service for all cities, counties, states, and regions throughout the world. And whereas the members of emergency medical service teams are ready to provide life-saving care to those in need 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And whereas access to quality emergency care dramatically improves the survival and recovery rate of those who experience sudden illness or injury. And whereas emergency medical services has gone to fill a gap by providing important out-of-hospital care, including preventive medicine, follow-up care, and access to telemedicine. And whereas the emergency medical services system consists of first responders, emergency medical technicians, paramedics, emergency medical dispatchers, firefighters, police officers, educators, administrators, pre-hospital nurses, emergency physicians, trained members of the public, and other out-of-hospital medical care providers. And whereas the members of the emergency medical services teams, whether career or volunteer, engage in thousands of hours of specialized training and continuing education to enhance their life-saving skills. And whereas it is appropriate to recognize the value and the accomplishments of the emergency medical services providers by designating Emergency Medical Service Week. Now, therefore, I, James T. McCain, Jr., Chairman of Sumter County Council in Sumter, South Carolina, in recognition of this event, do hereby proclaim the week of May 19th through 25th, 2024 as Emergency Medical Services Week, with EMS's theme honoring the past and forging the future. I encourage the community, to observe this week with appropriate programs, ceremonies, activities in Sumter County, South Carolina. And we have our emergency manager, emergency services manager here with us, Ken. Do you have the
Move approved. Second.
It's been moved and properly seconded that we approve the proclamation. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Mr. Chair, if I may, I'd like to thank Ken, Director Hall, for his service to Sumter County, his leadership with his organization. As you know, it is something to be proud of. And we certainly celebrate this occasion with them and for all the work they do for Sumter County citizens. Thank you, sir.
Appreciate it.
Mr. Chairman, members of the council, we do appreciate that. Thank you very much.
Okay, the next item on the agenda is ordinance number 24-1002, first reading. Mr. Administrator.
Mr. Chair, council members, good evening. This is the ordinance for our capital bond, better known as our capital bond budget ordinance, authorizing the issuance and sale of general obligation bonds for our annual county operational capital request. It is for $3.5 million. This is entitled only, but council has already taken action in one of the budget workshops to approve, and I won't go through the entire list, but it approves items for things such as EMS for some bumper guards, We also have a number of requests from the detention center for $246,344. The sheriff's office has a request for a number of pieces of equipment for $130,720. There's also requests in there for Parks and Recreation for some lawnmowers, both on for the parks and the golf course for $57,915. IT have numerous requests for new software as well as some capital replacements of some computers for $733,400. Public buildings, there are a number of facilities that council's responsible, the county's responsible to maintain. They range from the library to the judicial center, the summary courts, community centers, as well as the civic center. That's $922,383. The clerk of court has some requests for some jury chairs. There are also the sheriff's department, all the vehicles for his fleet. We replace 15 annually, as well as the equipment for those vehicles. And then there are 9 vehicle pickup trucks that will be used in various departments across the county. That total request for all the vehicles is $1,297,237. In total, $3.5 million, sir, for the capital request. That's all I have, sir.
Move the first reading.
Second.
We move properly second that we have first reading on ordinance number 24-1002. Any discussion? This is in title only. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Ordinance 24-1003, Mr. Mayor.
Chair, council members, this is the county's general operating budget that we approve annually. This is for first reading after 3 budget workshops, including earlier today. County council started out with a $2 million deficit at the first budget workshop. That was reduced to $1.4 million after some adjustments were made with revenues. And then after today's meeting, there was some adjustments to the revenue. Expenditures still remain. We still have some work to be done there. But what we're proposing tonight for first reading, title only, is a negative balance of $1,030,102, which includes all the personnel items that we discussed this evening still in the budget. That's what we have for first reading, sir.
Move for approval.
Second. Properly second that we have first reading on ordinance number 24-1003. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye. Aye. All opposed?
Mr. Chairman, I'm gonna reserve my vote until we get to the end of the process.
Ordinance number 24-1005, first reading.
Mr. Chairman, members of the council, you saw some pictures at the last budget workshop a week ago showing property that we need to acquire on Frierson Road in order to renovate the fire station there and make a little campus there between the fire station and the EMS station. And because the property we're going to acquire is going to cause that property owner of the larger tract to lose its frontage on Frierson Road, as part of the negotiation, we're going to give back an easement across the southern part of our property, 25-foot easement. And you'll have all the pictures and everything on the second reading.
Recommend approval for first reading. Second.
This is third
reading, first reading.
First reading, okay. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Okay, committee reports, internal affairs.
Yeah, all right, we met, everybody was present, sorry, I'm under the weather, so I apologize for a second, I'm talking. First action was a motion, second from the committee to appoint candidate A and send that candidate A to the city for confirmation, and that's on the Accommodations Tax Advisory Board. As a motion was second.
Have a motion and a second, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Also, a motion second to appoint Simon Jones to First Steps Partnership appointment from the library. I guess it's a library request to make sure. Sumter County First Steps Local Partnership Board. Right board there. And that was Simon Jones. That's a motion second to make that appointment.
We have a motion and a second, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
That concludes my report, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Report from council council members on other meetings, trainings, and/or conferences.
Mr. Chairman, can I be recognized?
Mr. Washington.
Mr. Chairman, I've been contacted by some of our extraordinarily good citizens on Kangaroo Lane. You might recall we've had some discussion, some extensive discussion about Kangaroo Lane. And I guess this is a point of inquiry. I am being told that Kangaroo Lane is now owned by a private individual. Is that accurate?
According to the tax records, taxes are being paid on that road, yes.
Was that road given to that individual?
I don't know about it. I think he owns it. I don't know.
Well, for 23 years, there was a green county sign on the road.
We had that discussion and it
Right.
was brought up that that was a mistake on our part.
And so now it's owned by an individual.
Well, he's been paying taxes on it.
Always been privately owned.
So he's owned it for 23 years.
As far as I know, Mr. Washington. Yeah.
Is that accurate, staff?
Based on the information we have, sir, yes.
For 23 years he's owned it.
That road was actually part of the original parcel of land which that landowner still owns.
Part of the road or all of the road?
25-foot portion of that road. 50-foot right of way, 50-foot right
The
of way.
lots were cut out of parent track. 50-foot wide of was left. That was always owned by Eric Culp. No, his mother owned it. And he acquired it.
When did he acquire?
I can't remember off the top of my head whether she passed away and he inherited it or whether she gave it to him. I don't recall off the top of my head. But the Culp family, whether his mother or Eric, owned a larger tract of undeveloped property.
And so essentially the residents on that road were living on his land?
They lived on their own lots, but they drove out to, what's the name of the street that they get to? Anyway, they got to the county maintained road, crossing the property of Eric Culp.
Okay. Mr. Chairman, that's a little bit different from the information I'm being given. I'm being told that it was recently given to
Have to
Mr.
have
Culp.
research it and get back with us. Mr. Washington, it's very easy to look up in the records. I would assume that it is.
I'm interested. I'm interested.
I am too.
Yeah.
Mr. Chairman, I would like to bring up something, please. When we talk about
Are you,
replacing
wait
council
a minute, are you through, Mr. Washington?
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
I had the pleasure of attending the commission ceremony at South Carolina State University this past Thursday. And I say that because there was a young man in District 7, who live in the district I represent, named Jamal P. Ford, J-A-M-A-R, P-P-E-T, Ford, F-O-R-D. Jamal P. Ford was commissioned as a second lieutenant in the United States Army. And he has volunteered to join the infantry. So he will be a future fighter in the United States Army. And I had the pleasure of providing the first salute to Lieutenant Jamal P. Ford at the ceremony. So I just want to like to make that a matter of record that we had this outstanding young man. And there was only 9 people out of that ROTC class that got commissioned as second lieutenants and stuff. So it was a great honor, not only to Jamal P. Ford, but also to his mother, Linda Denise Clark, who really supported and pushed him in this area, in this endeavor. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Baker. Monthly reports.
Mr. Chairman, if I recognize 2 other things real quickly. First is a essentially an announcement, because I'm sure a number of council members are getting questions about roads, and I just want the public to know that that scenario is being worked on, and we're waiting on additional information before we can take any additional action. So I don't want the public to think that we have forgotten about it. It is at the top of the agenda. That's the first issue.
Thank you.
The second one is related to live streaming. Is there any reason why council can't be live streamed? I think we used to do that.
I don't recall it ever being live streamed, but we can certainly, look at that.
We can look at the options that the council would like. There were some limitations, I believe, based on the platform we were using before. And again, this is COVID brought, excuse me, sir, I'm sorry, I should say that. COVID obviously introduced that to us way back. And I could ask our communication director, Mr. Perry. I know we have discussed this in quite some time, but I believe there was a change in their platform which limited the ability for us to live stream. And so that's why we went to record it, and we've been recording ever since. But certainly, if that's the wishes of council, then we can pursue and see what options and what costs might be associated with that.
I think the administrator is correct, as he usually is. However, things have changed. And you have to have at least 50 subscribers. And according to my records, we have about 354, maybe a little more, maybe a little less. The school district has about 700, a little more, and they live stream. And so I'm just wondering what would prevent us from live streaming as well. I think it's important. Public is interested.
We certainly look into it.
If I may, real quick, Mr. Chairman. So during the pandemic, everyone was live streaming. Their bandwidth was being used. You had to have at least 5,000 followers or subscribers to live stream. They changed how it was done.
We'll take a look into it.
We'll look at it.
Mr. Chairman, that's not what this says.
We'll take a look into it. I don't see why we can't do it.
Yeah, and the school district is doing it.
Okay. Yeah.
And they don't have 1,000 subscribers. So it's not rocket science. Yeah, it's not rocket science.
Yeah, we'll take a look at it and find out what we need to do to live stream. One for the reports, Ms. Flynn.
Yes, sir. In your packet, there's information there about Blue Glass and barbecue, and if you haven't RSVP, it would be good to do so as quickly as possible. And on May 23rd, that the taste at the gardens will be held, and the chairman is going to be a part of the opening ceremony, and I would like the council members to confirm whether they plan to participate. Okay, thank you.
County Administrator's report.
Mr. Chairman, one quick item. At the last council meeting, there was some conversation by council members in regards to the parliamentary procedures that our council has been following, Robert's rules. Councilman Edens at the last meeting asked for us to follow up. There were aware, I guess, some time ago, the Association of Counties published, and I think Ms. Blaney is going to pass this out, published a version of what they call model rules of parliamentary procedure for South Carolina counties. Mr. Edens asked that we research that, so we got a copy of this. This is actually online, and it does come in a book format. But with that, sir, we just want to make sure that council had this available, and certainly will work on this if necessary.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a recommendation that we address the staff to look into this and let them go through it first and then bring it back to us. And we can all go through it together and let our attorneys go through it first to see if there are the things that don't apply to us or things that we may need to change. That I've not looked through it in years. When they first came out there, I looked through it.
Mr. Chairman, I am not opposed to, for the chairman, the councilman from Wilson Hall is suggesting. I think it's a good idea. But I would also submit that you know, we're not currently following Robert's Rules of Order. And so this would be an additional layer on top of that. And, you know, the first area that, you know, comes to my mind was the procurement. The second would be, for instance, today we adjusted the agenda without appropriately going through Robert's Rules of Order. We changed some things around and we didn't use the proper procedure. So we got to figure out whether or not we're going to use Robert's Rules of Order or whether we're not going to use them. But using them when it's convenient for some and inconvenient for others is not appropriate, and it's not what the people of Sumter County expect. I'll take it.
Mr. Chairman, have we as a county council adopted Robert Rules of Order that we're going to follow Robert Rules of Order?
For my time.
But I can respond, Mr. Chairman, that based on the last meeting that we had, I thought we were in agreement that we would follow Robert's Rules of Order latest edition. I think that's what we all agreed on. And I suggested that we put it in ordinance. So it says Robert's Rules of Order latest edition. I don't know if staff has made that adjustment yet. It hasn't come before council. So I'm assuming that that adjustment to the ordinance has not been made. And if it's not been made, then it should be made. And that covers the basis. And then subsequent to that, Mr. Eden's suggestions would also be taken under consideration at the appropriate time, would be my thought process.
Okay. Anything else, Mr. Minister? Come now to public comment portion of our agenda, where citizens desiring to speak during public comment are limited to 30 minutes. Comments that have been made through the chairman. If there are any questions, they will be answered after the meeting. Public comment is now open. Anyone wishing to speak, please proceed to the podium and state your name for the record.
My name's Wayne Dennis. Mr. Washington talking about Kangaroo Lane right there with the private and public dirt road and stuff like that. That dirt road's been a county maintained dirt road ever since I was a little boy. We got a piece of paper passed by Sumter County Council, recorded in Sumter County Courthouse, that y'all telling us is a lie, because it's by a surveyor, a licensed surveyor. I even brought that paper up here one day to, I ain't calling no name, but one of y'all told me that Sumter County tells a little white lie to help a surveyor. If Sumter County based on a lie, Sumter County based on what come out of Sumter County Courthouse. We bought land on that dirt road, thinking it's a county maintained road. Sign been up there for 23 years. Y'all snatched the sign out overnight and put a blue sign up. We like to know what it is. Is it a private dirt road or a county maintained dirt road? And if there's a county maintained, a private dirt road, why in the heck people at Sumter County Courthouse in this building right here is saying it's a county maintained road? Is Sumter County based on a lie or based on the truth?
Thank you, Mr. Gary.
Mr. Chairman, based on that revelation, if we are getting a report from a citizen that a staff member suggested to them that Sumter County tells little white lies, we need to investigate that, and that is my request.
This is public hearing now. We can address
Okay.
that. We'll take care of it.
Okay, I'll circle back. We'll come back to it on the agenda. We can have an extensive conversation about it, because that's just not right.
Hi, I'm Lisa Giddens. Y'all can do with me. I just have a few questions that I need answers to. In 1999, the street was named and a street sign was put up, a green sign. Okay, it's took 25 years to decide to replace that sign? Well, we'll say 23 because it's been down for 2 years. This doesn't make sense to me. Y'all, we come before the council asking for help. Okay, we did this because not only have we benefited from the fact that our property was on a county-maintained road, so did Eric Cook. He never said a word until we decided, or the county decided, that they weren't going to maintain it no more. This is not fair. He has not attended any meetings. He has not voiced his opinion. We know for a fact that some of the council members had a meeting with him at a private dinner and told him that either it was a private road or a county maintained road. Which one did he want? He said, if you name it a private road, then it won't be maintained. Excuse me, but it's true. We know this man. He comes to our house. He comes to our residence. Okay, he said, if y'all make it a county maintained road, y'all gonna owe him back taxes. Is this fair? Is this true? Is this right? Second of all, there's 7 addresses on this private road. 2 of those road houses are rentals. Tell me this is a private road. Is this a private road? Can anybody answer that? Y'all told us at first that on a private road, there could only be 1 house and maybe a family member. Well, y'all made an ordinance to change that. So now it's the owner and 3 residents. Now it's 7 owners, 7 addresses and 1 owner. What is right here? Y'all are not making the right decisions here. Y'all are putting other people's feelings ahead of what is right on Kangaroo Lane. We have told y'all we pay a licensed surveyor to come survey our land. Our property value has decreased. We have trouble getting in and out the road. Come on now, this is not fair. We don't have the money that some people have, but we're right. And y'all know we're right. Y'all need to reconsider this. Y'all need to do more work.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman. My name is Myra Washington. I am still stuck on this bulldozer, which was last term, I think, a compactor. What I know is that we had 3 readings, and the title says it is a bulldozer, and that's how it was presented on 3 different readings. But last time, when a member from the public stood here and referred to it as a bulldozer, he was corrected and told that it's not a bulldozer, it's a compactor. I would like some clarification on whether or not it is a bulldozer or a compactor, as he was corrected. And I've also been told that we weren't comparing apples to apples because this unit has special apparatuses that make it so costly. I think those specs need to be provided to the public. If I need to make a freedom of information request to see the specs on a unit, I will do that. Secondly, every member who spoke from the public on this issue at the last meeting had the same sentiment, and it was common sense sentiment that whenever you make a purchase of any significance, particularly more than $500,000, that you do some comparison shopping, unless it's the only place you can sole source. I did some research on my own, this time into the county's code of ordinance. And from my understanding, the county's ordinance states that any purchase over $25,000 has to be put out for competitive bid. That didn't happen here. Anything less than $25,000, you have to get 3 quotes, either by phone or written, and that information has to be maintained in the file. That didn't happen. And I would like answers. I think this county deserves answers on our procurement process and whether or not we are keeping our ordinance to the T. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Washington. Good evening, Mr. Chairman, council members and staff and friends here tonight. I'm Jay Wren. I live in Beckwood Community in District 5. At the council meeting on April 23rd, there was a discussion about Robert's Rules of Order and what addition was to be used. Mr. County Administrator can stole some of my thunder tonight, but I'll continue. As a council member mentioned, the Association of Counties, it mentions the Robert's Rules of Orders. The association's document, model rules, is primarily written for private societies and not well suited for use by legislative bodies, particularly for smaller bodies such as county councils. Robert's Rules is set up to handle large single meeting sessions of non-legislative societies. Robert's Rules is a large, complex set of rules with over 800 pages in its latest edition. It further states that neither the Chamber of South Carolina legislators uses Robert's Rules. They have their own rules that they have adopted, and they're different, and those procedures are close to 800 pages combined. The purpose of the model rules of parliamentary procedures for South Carolina is to provide a simplified and much shorter set of rules based on part of Robert's Rules, which can be adopted by governing bodies. South Carolina state statute also reads that the council shall determine its own rules and orders for business. It was drafted with county council meetings in mind. My personal opinion is I don't care which one you use. As long as you adopt one that is according to God's established standards, which are just, right, and for the greater good of the people. The council member from Rembrandt stated on more than one occasion that this is the people's house. I'm going to follow that up with, you have a seat at our table. Not to be served, but to serve. I have a book here for each one of you tonight, Kingdom Politics, Returning God to Government. I'm a Christian, and I'm a kingdom independent. At the start of each council meeting, there's the invocation, and we ask God to grant us wisdom. If God has been removed from how government functions, the character of its leaders, and the values of the citizens, those prayers will go unanswered. Just look at the state of our community, state, nation, and the world globally. That's why it's important to look for the right people of high character and kingdom perspective to represent us as civic leaders. We need to look at the policies they support and whether those policies will achieve the goal of maintaining a safe, just, righteous, and compassionately responsible society for all people. Roads matter, delivery of basic entitled services matter, as well as a myriad of other issues matter, no matter the size or complexity. But most importantly, the people matter, and not just on election day. Kingdom-minded civic leaders ought to be about the good of society based on biblical values and principles. Mr. Chairman, I'm going to go just a little bit over, if I may, have some patience with you. Following the invocation, we have the Pledge of Allegiance. When written in 1892, God was not included in the Pledge of Allegiance. It wasn't until 1954 when Congress passed a law that God has added as one nation under God. In 1956, the United States Congress passed a joint resolution declaring "In God We Trust" as the national motto of the United States. When did we remove God from our government? I said all this to say that the only manual that we need to follow and to govern is the Bible. There is not one issue in government, politics, or society to which God does not give a precept or a principle on how it should be viewed and governed. God must be included in government in order to have the government function in the way God has designed it to function. Our laws and ordinance should be established and according to God's standards and mirror the same to the fullest extent as possible. When we make God's standard
our standard, he allows us to see the blessings of his power and protection. Each of us have responsibilities to engage in politics at some level and to let our voices and values be made known. We have this responsibility because each of us will experience the blessings, our judgment transferred to us through our elected representatives who sit at our table. God desires to bless the nations whose leaders follow his rule. There should never be a separation of God and government. We must do everything we can to ensure God remains in the equation when it comes to our policies and governmental structures and leadership. The first question we must always ask publicly on any subject, policy, politician, or direction is, what does God say about it? What does his scripture declare? In going to the scripture first, we are affirming God's rightful place as a sovereign ruler over all. He rules all the nations and all the leaders. God must remain the dominant influencer of our political belief system as well as our public declaration. So what can we do? Rather than criticize our elected leaders, we need to pray for them and encourage them to look to God in their decisions. As our elected leaders, the most important thing you can do is to encourage us to live by a biblical standard. Government belongs to God. Let our decisions and lives reflect that each and every endeavor and day. In closing, thank you for your time and patience. May we truly be one community, state, and nation under God. And may God continue to bless the Sumter community, the state of South Carolina, and the United States of America. And Mr. Chairman, if I may approach, I have something for y'all.
Come over here, please.
And the book that you've been given, I have read several occasions and made notes. So I look forward to some discussions on this. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Council, Mr. Chairman McCain, everybody. I am Dr. Alexandra Bacon. I am here to bring an issue to your attention. It affects our community. It's a public safety issue, a criminal justice issue. I have a PhD in criminal justice, so I have a responsibility to address it. I was speaking with a member of our sheriff's office. There is a trend, so I'm going to get away from the word trend and say epidemic because it is a public health issue, of gunfire in our county residential areas, neighborhoods where you don't even have 25 feet between the homes. People are shooting all hours of the day, midnight, and we had a terrible incident on our street. This is my father, Councilman Baden. So, I'll make that clear, on our street, Myrtle Beach Highway, which is normally a nice, quiet street. Now, for 2 weeks, there was somebody on the street shooting day, night, just rapid fire. I said, Dad, this sounds odd. I said, we need to call the police. Well, you know, people in the county, they can shoot. I said, but Dad, this is odd. I said, it seems like they're planning something. Yeah, but if we call, they're going to say people in the county can shoot. So it goes on. These people are behind our house playing loud music, firing guns. Now, a few weeks ago, I'm in bed, 11:30. I hear a car speed off, a loud scream. So I have to call 911. The only person on the street who did. And our neighbors, our young neighbors who had a newborn baby, and there's another house next to theirs with little kids, they were in an active shootout. My house is right next to them. So when I hear this, I hit the deck because I'm thinking, oh my God, what did Dad say? Somebody's shooting us up. But no, it wasn't us. And this deputy said, this is a problem now. It's increasing in residential areas in the county, and they don't know why. So I am here to just please ask you guys to just possibly consider an ordinance banning gunfire in residential areas in the county where you have houses so close together, because as they say, bullets don't have a name. So anybody else could have been shot in all that rapid semi-automatic gunfire right next to me. So thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dr. Lee.
My name is Lorenzo Rivers, and I'm just back to tell you that they caught the dog. The county did its job. I'm thankful. I didn't want to come here 2 days, 2 meetings in a row and then not come back and tell you that it has been resolved. I have a quiet neighborhood. Thank you.
She wants a picture.
Yes.
Oh, you do want a picture? All right.
Second.
Motion and a second, any discussion? Hearing none. We are adjourned.